Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Chase. I'm the program and camp director at Camp Westwind on the coast. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm really grateful to be here today. I'll do my best to talk briefly about some of the trials and tribulations that Westwind has experienced in the past couple of years and how we've kind of come through on the other side and things that we're working on presently to ensure that we're going to be stronger for the future. All right, I think we can head on over to that next slide. So a quick overview of Westwind. We're a nonprofit organization that runs programming on the Oregon coast. That is an aerial photo of our property on the peninsula there. You can see Lincoln City to the right, and then about 5 miles as the crow flies is where we are on 529 acres of wilderness, a protected wilderness on land that belongs to the Tillamook and the Siletz. We've been running programs since the 1930s. We primarily run a summer camp, week-long sessions all summer long that focus on the outdoors and leadership and team building for youth ages 7 to 17. We also have a variety of family camps, and we also host hundreds of rental groups every year, including the Northwest ESD Outdoor School in the fall and the spring. And we became a nonprofit in 2006 when we split from the YWCA. Our mission really focuses on conservation, stewardship, inclusion, and the equal access to the outdoors for all. And people who come to our site love the direct immersion into a really remote area and protected area of the coast. So we've had some challenges, like many in the past couple of years. First and foremost, we, like so many other camps in Oregon, had to cancel our 2020 summer programs and had to really drastically pivot. What we did instead is we offered a rental program for families. It was a huge shift from anything we'd done before. We hadn't run our summer program. The only last time that we hadn't run it was in the 1940s. So it took a lot of creative thinking from everybody on the team to do it, but we were really successful. We did have to furlough staff in the process, but we thought we'd really made it to the other side. We got to the end of August in 2020. Things were looking great. You'd think being a really remote camp on the Oregon coast, we'd be somewhat immune to certain natural disasters, save like tsunamis and earthquakes and things like that, excuse me. And but come to Labor Day in September, with the infamous windstorm, we woke up the next morning and found out that 500 trees had fallen down around our main camp area, had crushed a lot of our buildings. We did have a group in at the time, but miraculously no one was hurt, even though a lot of our lodging buildings were destroyed, as you can see in that bottom photo, by trees. Our road was blocked, the sky was red, the ocean was black. It truly looked like the world was ending. The road was blocked. We had no power, no running water, no electricity. It was pretty wild, and had no idea what was going on. And due to some creative thinking from the Portland team, the site team, and the community, honestly, and working with our community, our local community out there, we were able to get everyone out really safely. Nobody was hurt, and we stayed evacuated for 2 weeks due to the fire that was in Otis nearby that had reached up to within a quarter mile of our back border. So that was our major event. We are still cleaning up from that windstorm. Like I said, 500 trees fell down, so we've had a lot of flooding incidents as well. Most recently, last November, it damaged a huge part of our roads. I don't know if anyone heard in the news, but they had to evacuate a lot of people from the lower coastal lands in Otis and Neskowin. And we were all out there for a work week last November, kind of during that period as well. We've had increased damages to some of our other buildings, our trails and whatnot. And honestly, the impacts on staff have been pretty acute. We've had a lot of people leave. We were already a really small team, 12, 13 pre-pandemic at our largest. We whittled down to 2 going into 2021. So the impact on a lot of people was pretty significant, just acknowledging the trauma and acknowledging the burnout and acknowledging the fatigue that comes with getting through really difficult times. So that's been a big part of what we've learned. So we can flip into the next slide and talk a little bit about what happens when you go through difficult times. So coming back to the trees and the buildings, we were able to rebuild due to some insurance money that we had, emergency reserves, community support, some grant funding. We were able to clear the trees and fully rebuild by the beginning of last summer, which was just incredible. And then we were able to run our full summer camp last year. Because of everything we learned from pivoting our program in 2020, honestly, we just thought and planned optimistically, even though we didn't have permission to run until May last year, but we decided to take it upon ourselves to dismantle every part of our program, all of our safety protocols, and figure out how we truly could deliver a program that still fits within our mission, but that is truly safe for everyone who comes to our beach. We had community input from our summer staff, and when we got permission, we were ready to run summer camp, and we did without zero COVID cases in 2021, which is a huge success on its own, and over 1,200 people coming to camp last year. It was a huge feat, but something that we're really proud of, and especially after everything that we'd been through the year and a half before that. So as we're implementing a lot of our newfound resilience, one of the things we're really prioritizing going forward is investing in our staff, in their mental well-being, their mental health, their sense of security and safety. We've really reflected and learned that it's difficult to have a successful emergency plan and safety protocols or procedures if you don't invest in your staff and their well-being, because they're going to be the ones that are truly going to activate all of those protocols in a difficult moment, when things happen and hard things happen, when disaster hits. And it's important that there are systems in place to support them through those times. And whether it's training, so they know exactly what to do, they feel confident in their skills and their ability to respond, whether it's just systems in place to support them afterwards, and acknowledging that any kind of natural disaster event can be really traumatic and really difficult, regardless of really what happens, especially if you're the one that's on the ground getting through those times. So that's something that we want to really make sure as we rebuild our team that we're focusing on. And that's a big aspect of our approach going forward. We're also increasing training throughout for our seasonal staff, for our year-round training, and that's been really important. We created a safety committee that's year-round, that's including staff, possibly board members, possibly community members. So really actively improving our planning process and being more directly involved in a lot of those systems. We're currently actively seeking a lot of funding that's prioritizing safety, emergency preparedness, both on site, so actually implementing emergency caches, new systems, new evacuation plans, emergency supplies and things like that, and also supporting the process internally as we rewrite, look through all of our safety protocols and procedures and rewrite all of those plans and invest in training in our staff. And then last but not least, we learned through the fire, we learned through the evacuation process that you have to rely on your communities during those difficult times. And being in a remote area on the Oregon coast, there are people who live out there who are also directly impacted by all those events. And so by collaborating with them, communicating with them, and coming up with a shared plan has become our new approach forward as well. So we're working actively to strengthen those relationships and also collaboratively come up with systems in place when it comes to evacuation or communication or sharing resources, things like that. And so we're actively pursuing those opportunities as well. And that's been a big, big part of our future planning process. So we really do feel like we've come out on the other side. Things are looking so much brighter. Resilience, it can be a complicated term, but definitely I think a lot of that comes within gratitude of knowing just how bad it could have been. I know other people have certainly suffered a worse fate than Westman has. None of our main buildings were destroyed. Our site is still intact. Our mission is still strong. We're still able to successfully run programs. We have an amazing community that supports us, amazing staff that are still with us. So it's gratitude, practicing gratitude, I think, for all of the things that are still intact and that we still have, and looking at all the ways that are realistic in the ways that we can truly invest in our site, in our people, in our internal systems and procedures to really bolster preparedness for the next time, and knowing just what can happen and potentially what's in store. So maybe more resilient than before, but so grateful to still be here. And I, being one of 2 staff that made it through those difficult times, for me, it was knowing that we can get through on the other side, and we can have resilience, and we can, truly believing in our mission and truly what we do. I think for me is the reason that we made it through, and I made it through personally on the other side, knowing that burnout, we all experienced it on our own ways, and I know I certainly did. But being able to truly see the light at the end of the tunnel has helped with that a lot. So there's so much more I could say. I know there's just limited time, and I want to make sure you have enough time to hear from both Nathan and Bill, but I just want to say thanks again for having me, and please reach out. I'm happy to expand on any of the events that have happened at Westwind, anything that we're doing, answer any questions, and I thank you all for being here.
Thanks so much. And as Laura mentioned, if you have kind of questions for her, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And also there'll be definitely time at the end for you all to reach out. And just want to sort of appreciate the vulnerability of kind of sharing the whole story of that experience, because it has definitely been challenging. And it's hard sometimes to revisit some experiences I think we've all had over the last couple of years. And so just appreciate you putting all that out there about your experience with Westman. So I'm going to unspotlight Laura, and I'm going to spotlight Bill Hunt from the Plan with Outdoor Science School, Executive Director, and let him share a little bit about what's happening down there. So here y'all go.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Bill, and I always like it. In the eyes of a lot of the students, I'm the grandfather of all the redwoods, so it's kind of nice, that silver hair is doing something good. Today I'm here. I kind of 3 science concepts I want to bring up is like they've been really the main line for the last 2 years for us: adaptation, change, and interdependence. And we've used those terms a lot over the last 2 years, and also along with flexibility, new direction. We could do this. You've got to be kidding. They want what? And what the but a lot of terms arose that that we can only share late adult campfires, because it was a challenge for us, because we have a large area that we do programs in and work with about 26 different schools in Oregon and districts in Oregon and California. And so here's our story. The COVID announcement was it hit me. It was devastating, because we just finished the construction of our Crater Lake site, our Sunpath site near Crater Lake, and it was going to be our first spring that we would be able to put all of our energy into the programming instead of being split between construction programs. Easy Street on the horizon, ready to roll, and then bam, up comes the announcement there'll be no resident programs. Bam, there's going to be no in-school programming, and what do? We got the staff hired. We have a full schedule at the sites. We have a full schedule for the traveling camps. Well, what do? We were like, I was like, and so it was nice that with the support of working with Surreal, and one of the nice things about Southern Oregon is there's the commitment of people to work together. We got into all the stuff we could think about doing online, like changing our website, being making things available for the outdoors on every day, virtual activities, promoting our teacher education kits. So in reaching out and talking with teachers, seeing how we could assist them. And actually we didn't do very good with that. And kind of getting a little frustrated. So we decided to do a survey through the kids. We just went and got kids and asked all these things. We found out that I'm about the only person that does not have cable TV in Southern Oregon, or probably the world. And we found out almost all the kids had access to Discovery, podcasts, things I didn't even know what they were. They're sharing with me that you can do on your phone, you can do on your cable, you can do on your hotspot, the school districts have furnished for them. So we found out the teachers had a lot of assistance in covering a listen and watch type of education package without really needing any assistance from us. And so what was missing was the hands-on outdoor experiences. And so in March of 2020, we did everything we could, going through all the headaches of making sure that it was legal. We had all the protocols covered. We started doing day programs for charter schools, selective schools that were not part of the close down at the time. And that was successful. And then we took it on the road, expanded it, and bought some trailers. And now it's like, we learned a lot from that, and learning how to make the day programs work, but did that. And when we came into 2021, everyone, we figured, it's all going to go away. We're going to be ready to roll. And of course, it didn't. We couldn't do resident programs again, but this time we were ready. We were ready for it. We had 2 sites in the Klamath Basin, 3 sites in the Rogue Valley, and 1 in Douglas that we were doing pretty much full-time day programs. And since we had the costs on the road, we could take our full curriculums to anything, we could customize it. And that made it really nice. It was an amazing season. It was in the almost 50 years I've been doing outdoor ed, it was one of the greatest spring seasons we've ever pulled off as far as number of children, the number of variety of programming. I mean, it was awesome. And then of course, mid-July, everything looked like, it's like falling back in place, we could take the masks off, we can have overnight, we're ready to roll. And then I think Nell mentioned it, then came the smoke. Fires we dealt with the year before, the smoke from everybody else. And now we're sitting here, we have redesigned everything. So we have the ventilation so that we can have the people use the yurts or the lodging to deal with COVID. But that ventilation meant they had to wear a mask, which you can't do when you're sleeping, so you don't hurt your lungs. So we're fighting, protecting from the cough any way you look at it. So resident programs had to be closed down again. And then almost all the forests and public lands that we utilize in our region were closed for public use because of the fire risk, and basically back to what's even worse, the smoke. And we were able to pull a couple little things here and there to help the kids that were available. It was a very small fall for us, and honestly, we and that definitely included me too. We're tired, and it was time for the break. We had, so we took our little break off for the winter, and now we're back and we're adapting already and allowing, and making changes to reach deeper and to connect with our partners and staff and agencies that will make this next chapter successful. So that's kind of the short answer of what got us where we're at today. And I was looking at the questions Nell had sent me, and number one was like, well, how do we commit to equity, work, and outdoor education? And I think one of the large parts is, it's been historically something we've really always worked for, is our priority is to assist the teacher in accomplishing 100% population of their students in the classroom. And this means, as my little flyer there says, it's culture, religion, any barriers, any fears that can allow someone to be a holdout to come to our program, we try to address. And one of and it's nice, and that's why we have staff trained to work with the different populations. I would say with COS was the first program that I have ever done where we're doing kindergarten, not this last couple of years, but I loved it. It was kindergarten, Latino kindergarten overnight camps. I have fought for years to work with the population to get out, and then we're still getting begging, and I don't like them that age for that stuff. And we worked at making it possible that money is not a deciding factor. You know, with the Measure 99 funds, great family, awesome scholarships and money that we get for them. The community grants have been coming in to help with a lot of stuff. Has been really, really helpful. We got a lot of volunteer instructors who are starting to come to the line, and it's also helping us to really feel comfortable in saying that we're offering outdoor school for all grades interested. We have you know, we do a large population of our programs, thanks a lot to Gray, our 3rd and 4th graders, and then, you know, we do some other ones too. But and then the other thing we actually did is we adjust, we're constantly, but we've adjusting our business strategies to allow for more funds to be directed towards direct service and staff support in other ways we can work with the community and with, you know, with a lot of ways to shrink it down, that we're putting most of our money into like making sure kids get out and supporting the staff. And the bulk of our 2022 budget looks a lot, or 2023 budget, no, 2022 budget, I'm sorry, I gotta remember what year I'm in. 2022 budget is designated to staff support way more than we've put into that in the past. And like, how do we, you know, cultivate relationships with outdoor school educators, program sites, and partners in our areas? That's something that, you know, I've always strived towards, and also I strive for is cooperation. Okay. Oh, well, I'll be looking at our card is basically, that's all you're supposed to get out of so far. And my second slide is talking about competition over cooperation over competition is a slogan that we like to follow. And, you know, with a couple other groups that we work with is we have there's not enough of us to ever feel to be competitive in this business, or to be working competitive, because of the fact that there's an endless number of potential clients out there, and there's not enough people at the present time on our planet to meet that need. So we really need to work together. And so we've been trying to work hard, and I'm with Southern Oregon Regional Environmental Education leaders, and we've been nurturing the partnerships with as many agencies as we have, and that's a wonderful group that we've worked with a lot in the past. But we're also finding is there's so many people in 2019 and 2020 who were hired for the government agencies or local, regional, you know, county, state agencies to do education programs and to do something. But with the closure of the COVID closures, their positions got transferred or changed over, and this and that. So leaving some big gaps, and we're working to help them find a, you know, as a team to get that going. So we added a lot more full-time staff to help us expedite and strengthen these connections, and hopefully we'll be able to stay on top of changes that happen, you know, constantly and within our programs and at our cooperating agencies. As I was mentioning that, you know, they, you know, turnovers, transfers, and that is too many dreams have ended when a director or education coordinator or someone retires, transfers, moves on to brighter meadows, or whatever. And now we're starting over again. So we are trying and finding that working harder at developing the long-term partnerships with the agencies as well as the education staff, getting a little deeper in where it's a commitment from them. And so when Mary Lou gets hired on to be the new education director, she already knows what's going on, because a lot of times we were working only with an individual, and that's helped us a lot. One thing that we are doing that's out of our protocol today is we're strengthening our partnerships and coordination with the California programs, other California programs who were really especially hurt by these fires last year. And it's been nice, which is making it a little hard on staff, but it's okay. And one of our goals is that we continue to support the growth in our efforts to work together with others in the EE and outdoor education field to meet the community needs in this profession, like insurance, staffing, job stability, consistency in messages schools receives, on and on. And you got everybody here probably has a lot of things they can add to the list that we could do better. And that's why another thing we talk about is we believe that we need to start thinking more like the wolf pack instead of like we're going to make it as a lone wolf, because we can accomplish so much more stuff when we're looking at the big picture and finding places to make that happen. And engaging professional topics, and those is, I guess, it was mentioned by Laura, and I really support that, is that the support the growth of the staff members and the trainings and opportunities for them, and opening up more opportunities for them to become leaders in this field, our field. We want to utilize their creative thinking more, and we've done a similar thing that Laura's talk is just pulled everything back in and redesigning our curriculums completely from the bottom up, separating them for, I guess, is one of our concerns is, since we do like after school programs, day programs, classroom visits, and camps, is that the kids if they're getting repetitive information, it builds on something that they've done before. So we're tracking, who each school, what curriculum they're going to get. So it's going in deeper and spending more effort on our part to improve our show. Make sure that these are, when we're offering a returning group something, they're getting something that is really good and something new and builds on something in the past. We keep fostering the ideas for curriculum improvement and development of programs coming from the staff, especially because they're the ones working in the field, and and building the team team feeling. We try to show respect, and I guess that's a big one, and trust in our team members. We're including all of our team members, no matter what their time commitments are, because we have a lot of people who are part-time. I'll call them part-times. They're like basically they're there for the phone call. We need someone like 3 Fridays, or we need you for a Wednesday twice. But when we do our gatherings, we do our trainings, everything, they're always invited and always part of that. And that's building the family. It makes it, because those people are what makes us succeed, and also it's kind of like nice to have that family. And then I wasn't rambling too much there, but here what we've learned is that I think a most important thing is that the true value of the staff. The adaptability over the last 2 years has really pushed the limits to almost everyone. We're enhancing the understanding by reinforcing the importance of each other. And now as a team, we can make amazing things happen. It's really saw the super importance of building in time for staff members to spend time together without student obligations came to the forefront. And that's one of the problems of when we were mainly resident programs. I've done this for years, but I always thought that, hey, they're going to spend time just talking, coming up with stuff. Well, they're tired. We're resident programs, when you're on from 7, you get your little breaks, but you're on. It's kind of hard to really make it going. By fitting into our day programs where they have like 2 hours to 3 hours a day that they get to work together to improve or to make some changes or to, I don't know, just have fun, is really seeing a lot of benefits coming from it. Like just making sure that they have it similar to like a classroom teacher. Classroom teachers in the school, if your district doesn't allow for teacher planning, then it's pretty obvious in their energy levels. We got, because we had like for 16 years, Goss only had like 1 full-time employee, and we were part of that whole weakness of environmental education is we're seasonal employees pretty much only. And we have found that, through this whole process that we are going to be working to get more and more people on with 10-month contracts, similar to the school district, so that we can do curriculum development, outreach, and they can teach as much as possible. All these things are necessary for our program to grow, and we're hoping it'll work. And I guess that's another slogan we had there is less on staff, more on stuff, or less on stuff, more on staff. And so, you know, as we've adapted to meet the changes that will or can arise, we look really closely at how we depend on each other and what we can do together to make a better product come out of this wonderful, interesting experience we've all had. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. And I really appreciate sort of the connection between the, experience of sort of navigating, adapting your programming, and also just the staffing element to the idea of resiliency, which is an overused word, but I just appreciate you sharing a lot about that. So
Thank you.
I'm going to hand it over to Nathan. I'm going to stop sharing because he's going to share his screen.
Well, so good morning. My name is Nathan Reynolds, and I am the executive director of the Opal Creek Ancient Forest Center. My pronouns are he and him. I am newly arrived at the Opal Creek Ancient Forest Center. I started in September of last year. And I just wanted to quickly tell you a little bit about my background. I actually was interested in the Opal Creek job, which is a question I get from a lot of people, because I come from a background of catastrophic science inquiry. And so I've spent a bunch of time at Mount St. Helens. I've been studying the Bonneville landslide in the Columbia Gorge and recent earthquakes in the Portland Basin. And so the idea of climate change and resilience is sort of woven into a lot of my perspective. I came from 15 years working with the Cowlitz tribe in Southwest Washington, who have been living with eruptions of Mount St. Helens every couple of hundred years for the last since time immemorial. And so the idea of changing climate is sort of a colonial construct. And yes, we are changing climate, but humans will adapt. We will figure this out. And so the question that is really foremost in my mind is how we do that. So that's the perspective I brought to Opal Creek. And at Opal Creek, we have a site called Jawbone Flats that is a 15-acre site that is completely surrounded by the Forest Service. So it is an in-holding within the Willamette National Forest that is a tiny little part of Marion County. And that's where we ran our four main programs. We had an outdoor school program. We had an expeditions program to teach people how to backpack. We had a cabin rental program in the shoulder season. And then we had a wilderness first responder recertification courses that we hosted on site. And in September 2020, the entire site of Jawbone Flats was burned in the Beachy Creek wildfire. And we lost 24 of 27 buildings. So on the right side of your screen, you can see a 2017 aerial photograph from Google Earth on the upper right-hand corner and a couple of the cabins. And on the lower right-hand, you can see the post-wildfire gray burned area. Jawbone Flats is down here in the valley in the bottom. And this is one of the three buildings that remains. Cabin 4 is the only cabin that we have on site left. So quickly, I saw a couple of insurance questions in the chat already. Here's my experience, and here's what it's important to know. There are a couple of different ways to insure your facility. There is actual cash value, which is a depreciated way of insuring your facility. So if your facility is tens of years old or many decades old, then your insurance value could be the depreciated value depending upon the insurance that you have, and it may not cover the actual value of what the buildings would cost to rebuild them. A second layer or second opportunity is called replacement cost value, and that may be where you have a set value of insurance, but it doesn't take into account any market appreciation. So if you have a set value of, say, $2 million for your facility, and if your facilities have appreciated since the time you set that value to 2.5 or $3 million, then when a disaster occurs, you will be underinsured as a result of that. The third is guaranteed or extended replacement cost coverage, which will build you to pre-loss condition regardless of any market increases or regardless of any cost increases in materials or contractor costs post-disaster. So as you imagine, these are increasing in levels of expense, but if your idea for your business protection plan is to make sure that you can return to an active facility as fast as possible, then you can buy into your insurance coverages in a different way. Another important factor is lost business insurance. Everyone who is running a camp facility should have lost business insurance so that if you have to shut down as a result of a disaster, that you can draw on your lost business insurance. It acts like reserves, but can be actualized from your coverages. Another important insurance, and this is all nuts and bolts here, but your business insurance will not cover infrastructure. So at Opal Creek, we had a bridge that was not covered in our insurance, and we had log stringers on this bridge. This bridge had been around for a long time, and in 2014, we had one of the log stringers broke. The bridge that connects the two half of Jawbone Flats. It was a primary bridge. All our utilities were covered and carried on that bridge, and the bridge was not usable for 2 seasons. And we paid separately for some other coverages of insurance, and that's a long story, but we basically paid about $500,000 to have a new bridge built, which was opened in 2016. And then the decking on that bridge burned off in 2020. And again, we don't have bridge insurance. So that's not coverable in any of our insurances. So that's a capital campaign out of pocket. Additionally, the fire burned the cribbing holding the footings in place. And so this bridge is still, since the fire 17 months ago, is now still settling into the creek, which is a slow motion disaster, not covered by insurance. So you must have the right understanding of insurance to cover and protect yourself. Here's where my catastrophism comes into play. I would urge everybody with a facility to go to the Oregon Has View, which is the state geohazards viewer. Here you can find out exactly what your risks are for magnitude 9 earthquakes, any localized earthquakes, landslides and earth movements, flooding, volcanic eruptions, and you can figure out where in this orange coastal to green Owyhee highlands your risk category is. Your standard insurance policies will not cover earthquake, and nothing in the Pacific Northwest is built to its seismic capacity that it should have for a magnitude 9 earthquake that we now know occurs. So you would need to get, if you're out of the coast like Camp Westwind, a magnitude 9 earthquake is going to be problematic. Earthquake insurance does not include tsunami coverage. Landslides, you can get landslide insurance, does not include mud flow coverage. However, flooding insurance includes both tsunami and mud flow insurance. So you have to think about where you are and make sure you get the insurance coverages you need. Here's another fun fact. 11 of the 18 very highest threat volcanoes in the United States are all in Oregon, Washington, California, but there is no such thing as volcano insurance. So if you're in a downstream run out from a volcano, that would probably be covered under your flooding insurance as a mud flow. And if you have ashfall or any other kinds of volcanic eruption, then that's it's just not covered. So for those things that are not covered on your insurance, your various kinds of insurances that you should have, FEMA will backstop and help you with your recovery insurance. But here is a very, very important thing that we're currently working through right now, is that FEMA has a category for community centers, and they have a category for educational facilities, and they do not have a category for camp facilities that serve outdoor school as an integral part of the Oregon educational experience. So we applied to FEMA post Beachy Creek fire, and they categorized us as a community center. And the important difference, bullet number 2, is that community centers are non-critical in the eyes of FEMA. And so they will support every place where you did education. So every classroom that you have, they will help you rebuild your classroom. And we're outdoor schools, and the classrooms are the world outside. And so if you are a community center, they do not cover your support or administrative facilities. So staff housing, administration buildings, we were off the grid. So all of our drinking water and hydropower facilities not covered by FEMA. So we are currently in the middle of our second appeal to FEMA, demonstrating that we had classrooms, infrastructure, bricks and mortar, and that we did qualify as an educational facility. And this appeal that we're going through right now will set the FEMA standards for all camps in Oregon in the future that offer outdoor school facilities. So wish us luck, help us contact our senators. And so that's really where we are. I know we're at 9:45. I just wanted to take a real quick finish here. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And I just wanted to note a couple of things. People have talked about pivoting as a very important word, and I find myself using that over and over again. We are at Opal Creek, we're offering outdoor school day opportunities in 4 locations away from Jawbone, because we still don't even have access into our site with a vehicle yet. We are also offering our expeditions program. That was our backpacking launching expeditions. We're offering that in many wilderness areas around Oregon. So we have increased our footprint and our reliance on our partners. All of the words that you saw about keeping your team motivated and building a strong sense of team and community amongst the staff, but amongst the board as well. At Opal Creek, there were a lot of board members who were really committed to the place and the site. And the fire has been traumatizing for them because they're concerned that the ancient forest is gone. And what does that mean for their identity and their relationship with that place? But it's important to approach all of these things, all these activities, all the rebuilding with a strong sense of gratitude and a strong sense of thankfulness. And I have been telling board members and people from the community who are just heartsick about the loss of the ancient forest at Opal Creek, what I learned at Mount St. Helens is that 40 years on, there's a lot to do at Mount St. Helens. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to see at Mount St. Helens. And so if you were there in the moment, you would consider it a catastrophe. But if you have a longer perspective outside of your lifetime, if you take a look at the indigenous heritage and understand how long people have been living on this landscape, that you begin to understand that the ecosystems here can adapt and have their own path of resilience. And if we can understand that better as individuals, then we can also teach that path of resilience to ourselves within our community. And most importantly, we teach that path of resilience to all of the students. So at Opal Creek, when we provide transformative experiences to create the next generation of environmental advocates, we are really looking at what these transformative experiences are and ways that we can teach this resilience. And if we can go out to a burned forest and say, yes, look at the forest, it's burned, but what do you see growing out of the root crowns? You see the shrubs are coming back. What do you see coming out of these seeds? The next generation of the forest is here on site and it's already growing. And if we can bring that resilience lessons and make them present to the students that we teach, then the students themselves learn resilience and learn how they can be resilient in community members. So that's nuts and bolts, but also the message that I really wanted to share. And I wanted to thank Nell and Carla and Laura and Bill for the opportunity to be on the panel with them today. And I know we're at 9:48. Thank you very much.